Hi guys, I know this video is coming a little bit later in the week, but I wanted to get a chance to read all of your responses to Backpacks and Briefcases and chapter 6 of the book. I noticed that some people haven't really been able to get the book. Make sure that you get that, especially since this week we'll be talking about how to develop analysis arguments, or analyses and arguments. And I think that that's going to be really important for you to be able to complete this project. So make sure that you pick up that book, and this video, which will hopefully be short, will also give you a sense of kind of what I'm noticing from your blog posts and then what I'm expecting you to get out of the readings this week. So some people had a really hard time defining rhetorical analysis, and I think that some people didn't get what rhetorical analysis was, and then other people had a hard time articulating what rhetorical analysis was. So I actually pulled from some of your blog posts a few people's definitions of rhetorical analysis, which I thought were really good. So the first one says, the skill of analyzing any forms of rhetoric or a message or advertisement designed to persuade someone a certain way. So yes, so we're analyzing rhetoric. We're not creating rhetoric. We're not doing any sort of external research or anything like that. Instead, we're looking at a text, we're identifying the argument, and then we're identifying the particular strategies that text is using to create its argument. The second example, so what kinds of strategies are the authors of a certain text employing to persuade the viewers/readers of their arguments? That's an excellent way of putting it. We are identifying rhetorical strategies, and then also one portion is identifying what sort of argument they're making. And third, we're also evaluating whether or not their rhetorical strategies were successful in the making of their argument. So there are a few different parts to the analysis. But this was a really good example of an explanation of what the process of rhetorical analysis is, or kind of what rhetorical analysis is trying to accomplish. And the last one says, I would describe rhetorical analysis as the ability to analyze situations, events, peoples, etc., who have the intention of persuading someone of their product or way of thinking and make a conclusion based on our core beliefs and values as people. So some of this was like a little bit lengthy, but the ability to analyze situations, events, people, etc., is important. And I think that that was kind of emphasized in Backpacks and Briefcases, where you can do rhetorical analysis on something other than a written text. You can do it on an advertisement, you can do it on a speech, something like that. But we're looking at specifically persuasion and the different strategies that people use to persuade. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a guide of how to read chapter 7 because it's a bit long. And something that's in the middle of it, I believe, is this rhetorical analysis of like Disney movies or something like that. It's really, really long. And I would recommend kind of skimming that. I think that it's going to have really good examples of analysis, but at the same time, I don't want you to get bogged down in that. So I identified a quote toward the beginning of the chapter that I thought was really good about analysis. It says, analysis examines how things work, why they do, what they mean, and what effects they have. To analyze something is not just about taking it apart to see how it works. It's also about trying to understand how it can be improved and changed. So we are looking at, when we're looking at the rhetoric of something, when we're looking at persuasive strategies, and then also when we're looking at rhetorical situation, we're looking at how it works, why it's doing, what it means, and what effects it has. So we're looking at the particular environment in which this rhetoric is happening, and then we're also looking at the ways that authors are using particular strategies to make their arguments. And then the second part of the sentence about trying to understand how it can be improved and changed, that comes into the evaluation that you'll have toward the end of your paper, where you'll make an evaluation argument about whether or not that whether that text made its argument well and how it maybe could be changed. And then, as I said at the beginning of this page, don't get bogged down in reading the examples because they're very long. kind of use those more as a way when you're reading or writing your paper and you're thinking, okay, how do I improve this? Maybe to jumpstart, you know, a ways of thinking about how to develop your paper. Though that's really good. Examples are really good for that. But more than anything, for chapter 7, you need to know what analysis does, which can be found on pages 198 to 201, how to use the text effectively, 206 to 209, and generic features of analysis, which is 235 to 247. So I'm not saying don't read the whole chapter. I'm saying that if you're looking at the chapter and you're getting really bogged down in the examples, please go to these particular pages, and those will give you a good sense of ways to think about analysis in a productive way. And then something that I'm asking you to do this week, or that is actually technically, I guess, due tomorrow, but something that will really help you write your project 1, is to annotate your text. What do I mean by annotate? Well, annotation can mean a lot of different things. I start by underlining things and kind of identifying things, and then I make notes about, you know, maybe you find an example of pathos and you underline it and write pathos in the margins. There is an example of the columns. There's an example in this week's folder about annotations, but sometimes it's more simple than that. Sometimes it's just kind of making sure you're identifying things. But here are the 2 big things that I think you should do. I think you should identify the argument, make sure you're very clear about what the argument of your text is. And then target words or phrases that seem to be trying to persuade you of the argument. Look at particular language, images, etc. So this is basically at the core of rhetorical analysis, making sure that you know what rhetorical strategies are being used, where are the particular areas where the author is trying to use pathos, ethos, or logos to persuade you of the argument. And anything, I kind of forgot to put this, but I think that anything that also gives you a sense of the rhetorical situation is really important. So if they reference a current event that they're responding to, for instance, that might be something that would be helpful to note. And then a couple of people have had questions about the Project 1 outline, which is due at the end of the week. I have just a couple of suggestions. Look at Chapter 7 for tips on developing rhetorical analysis arguments, and then follow the outline in the Project 1 description. You might not want to follow it to a T. You might want to develop one thing over another thing, but I think that the outline in Project 1 really gives you a good sense of everything I'm looking for in all those elements. And I think that if you start writing your paper by being able to identify those things and write an outline based on those questions and those issues, I think that you'll have an easier time writing your Project 1. So for you guys have your assignments for this week, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to earn a few extra credit points by watching this video. And so by Sunday, please email me either questions about the paper or a statement about what you're still struggling to understand. And then hopefully I will be able to address those to you on an individual basis, and we might have a better chance at addressing anything that you might be questioning about this paper or the course or anything like that. I really would like a check-in this week. So this is for extra credit, due to my email by Sunday. You guys have my email address. It's worth 5 points. What are you still struggling to understand about this paper? And or if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.